Last week, SpaceX released its SEC filing for what will be the largest IPO in history, with reports suggesting the company hopes to raise approximately $80 billion at a valuation of roughly $1.5 to $1.75 trillion. This week, I had planned to continue the Macro Watch series on the defense industry, but with the SpaceX IPO now imminent, it's far more important for Macro Watch subscribers to understand what SpaceX is, what it could become, and how its IPO could impact the financial markets during the weeks ahead. SpaceX is not just another aerospace company. It already designs, manufactures, and launches the world's most advanced rockets, operates the world's largest satellite communications network, is rapidly becoming a major AI infrastructure company, and is building infrastructure that could eventually support entirely new industries in space. At the same time, SpaceX is becoming one of a new generation of technology-driven defense contractors that are beginning to challenge the traditional military-industrial giants. Normally, MacroWatch doesn't focus on individual companies, but because of its scale, ambitions, technological leadership, and growing strategic importance, SpaceX has become an important macroeconomic story. Moreover, the SpaceX IPO itself may have a significant impact on stock prices, capital flows, investor psychology, and the financial markets more broadly. That's why I believe it's important for MacroWatch subscribers to understand what SpaceX is becoming and why this IPO matters. The world economy is entering a period of profound technological and geopolitical change. Strategic competition between the United States and China is intensifying. Defense spending is beginning to rise sharply, and AI infrastructure spending is exploding. At the same time, the commercialization of space is accelerating rapidly. SpaceX sits directly at the center of all those trends. For most of the space age, space remained primarily a government activity. Launches were infrequent, costs were extremely high, and the commercial opportunities were limited. That is now changing. The commercialization of space may eventually create one of the largest new industries of the 21st century. No company has played a larger role in that transformation than SpaceX. SpaceX is much more than a rocket company, however. In its IPO filing, SpaceX describes itself as operating across three major areas: space, connectivity, and AI. Those are three of the most important industries of the future, and increasingly, all three are becoming tightly integrated with one another. That integration may eventually become one of SpaceX's greatest strategic advantages. Let's look at each of these areas, starting with space. For decades, space launches were extremely expensive, infrequent, and dominated by governments. That began to change after SpaceX was founded in 2002. In 2008, SpaceX became the first private company to successfully launch a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. Then in 2010, the commercial debut of its Falcon 9 rocket reduced the cost of launch to orbit by approximately 85% relative to the historical average, dramatically lowering the cost of access to space. In 2018, the Falcon Heavy rocket reduced launch to cost even further to approximately 92% below the historical average. And SpaceX ultimately hopes Starship will reduce the cost of launch to orbit by as much as 99%. The real breakthrough came in 2015 when SpaceX successfully landed and later reused orbital-class rocket boosters. Instead of discarding rockets after a single flight, SpaceX began flying the same boosters repeatedly. That breakthrough fundamentally transformed the economics of access to space. Once SpaceX began successfully reusing rocket boosters, launch frequency increased dramatically. Annual Falcon family launches increased from just 31 in 2021 to 165 last year, helping SpaceX dominate global access to space. SpaceX's principal launch systems now include the Falcon 9, the world's first rapidly reusable orbital rocket, Falcon Heavy, one of the most powerful operational rockets ever built, Dragon, the first privately developed spacecraft to transport astronauts to the International Space Station, and Starship, which is designed to become the world's first fully and rapidly reusable super heavy lift spacecraft. Here are the stats. Falcon 9 first launched in 2010. It has had 620 flights, and it is partially reusable. Falcon Heavy first launched in 2018. It's had 11 flights, and it's also partially reusable. Starship first launched in 2023, and as of last week, it has had 11 flights, and it's designed to be fully and rapidly reusable, but as of now, it is a work in progress. SpaceX is no longer simply participating in the global launch industry. It increasingly dominates it. According to the IPO filing, since 2023, SpaceX has launched more than 80% of all the payload mass sent into orbit globally each year. That is an extraordinary level of industrial dominance. In 2012, 220 metric tons of orbital mass were sent into space. Last year, 2,600 metric tons, and more than 80% of that was launched by SpaceX. The falling cost of launch radically expanded activity in orbit. According to the filing, the number of active maneuverable satellites in orbit increased from less than 1,000 in 2015 to approximately 12,700 by March this year. And remarkably, approximately 9,600 of those satellites are operated by SpaceX itself through Starlink. That means SpaceX now operates approximately 75% of all active maneuverable satellites in orbit. That's an astonishing statistic.